business here. So do we have like a place? And the only reason I'm saying this is I know that DLLS. If you want to read the article, go read it. But it is paywalled, is it not? Here's some of the Tim Cato stuff. Dallas Mavericks owner Patrick Dumont was reportedly frustrated with Nico Harrison for not warning him how the fan base would react to a Luka Doncic trade, per Tim Cato. However, those team sources consistently expressed belief that Dumont no longer sees Harrison as a figure with irreproachable basketball expertise. Most notably, team and league sources say Dumont has had frustration with Harrison not warning him, or perhaps even more damningly, being unaware of the fandom's outrage following the trade. Those same sources say it had some influence over Dumont's decision to make Harrison appear for last week's closed media event, which Harrison did not want to do. Dun, dun, dun. So, look, man, this shit's so stupid. I come away with a lot of this stuff. From a lot of this stuff, a lot of the reporting on Dumont and Nico and the back and forth between those two, as Dumont is a dumbass. The Mavs have a dumbass owner. Like, this is why I said a week ago. I actually blame ownership more than anything else. Ownership is the problem, more so than Nico Harrison. 100%. And this quote is more proof of that. Or they're deflecting and gaslighting. That could be part of it. Is like, Dumont was like, no, guys, look, I didn't know it'd be this bad. It's all Nico's fault. But they said yes. They said yes to the trade. Like, this trade doesn't happen, right, if Patrick Dumont puts his foot down and says, no, you're not trading Luka, bro. Like, let's get serious. Dumont approved it. It had been in the works for a long time. Should owners have basketball IQ tests ran before buying teams? Good luck with that. Doubt he's smart enough to do that? No. So, like, honestly, I don't... Like, Dumont's trying to shift blame here. It's coming up short for me, man. It's coming up short. Should have been a fireable offense to even try and trade Luka, but for the owner to have no idea how it would have... See, like, if I own the Mavericks, right, which a lot of people say would be better. If I own the Mavericks, if you came to me and straight up said, hey, man, we're thinking about trading Luka, you'd be fired on the spot. If you're the general manager and you came to me and you said, owner slightly, I'm thinking about trading Luka, I'd say, oh, shit, okay. I'd sit down with you. And I would say, all right, what did he demand a trade? No, he hasn't demanded a trade yet. Okay, have you heard intel that, like, he wants to leave? He's going to demand a trade at some point. You're trying to get ahead of it. No, he's going to want to stay here. Okay. Did he kill somebody? No, he didn't kill anyone. Okay. Is there a medical that shows that his Achilles is one step away from tearing into a billion pieces? No. Okay. Are your bags packed? What do you mean? Are your bags packed? Because you're fucking fired. Get out. You're gone. Right? And that's just if I were in charge. That's just if I were in charge, right? While Kidd was understandably frustrated this season with the team's injury crisis, he also resented the front office's midseason Doncic trade. Multiple team and league sources say even if he shared some of Harrison's frustrations with Doncic that led to his trade of him, that Kidd felt he had been asked to reinvent what had been a roster built around one specific star. Team and league sources say led to the midseason exasperation that notably culminated in him skipping a league-mandated post-game press conference in February. So, I'm not going to lie. I call bullshit on this. And I'm not calling bullshit on Cato. I'm calling bullshit on the kid sort of backtracking here that was told to Cato. I'm just being honest. I'm calling bullshit. Just a little bit. Kid was down with the trade. I know it does say. I'm not questioning Cato. But I doubt that kid was like super worked up about it. I think maybe kid didn't know about the trade necessarily. But I think kid was in such lockstep with the thinking of Nico that Nico is comfortable enough to make the trade knowing kid would be okay with it in the long run, which I think is what happened. Now kid probably was like, damn, you're going to do this midseason? Like, I'm going to get the blame for a lot of this shit. You know, like, people are going to be mad at me. I'm the coach. The team's going to struggle. Like, they're going to be mad at me. They're going to be pissed off at me. But it goes back. Like, they don't make this trade if they don't think kid is on board with it. I'm sorry. They just don't. Everyone's doing damage control. That's absolutely where they're at. That's absolutely where they're at. It is some damage control, but I think kid didn't know the package. I believe kid didn't approve of it. Kid maybe didn't approve of it happening midseason or it happening when it did. But I absolutely think the kid was at least in lockstep with the idea of trading him. Lots of assuming you're doing right now. I mean, yeah. Do you think so? You think that kid was completely in the dark about this entirely? I don't. We've heard things that even contradict this. We've heard so many contradictory things about all of this that it does feel season's over now. Now it's time for me to save my own ass. That's basically where we're at in this process. It's time for me to save my own ass. Dumont's doing it. I think kid's probably doing it a little bit. From the outside, it looked like Luka and kid had a great relationship. I mean, it's a coach and a player. Luka hugged kid after the game, bro. I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. I thought kid ran off. Wasn't that like a big thing? Wasn't that like a thing that got sent in here a million times? A kid ran off after the game. When kid leaves, would you believe his perspective? Kid said he found out at the 11th hour. So again, my stance on this with kid has been that the front office felt comfortable enough in kid's thinking that they felt we can trade Luka right now and kid will be okay with it. Not saying that kid was behind in the closed doors meetings as well, like pushing for the trade, saying we should get this guy. Everyone's saying things to save their ass. Definitely implies a messy breakup incoming, though. Yeah, I mean, I entered this offseason thinking there's no way kid or Nico are gone. No way at all. How messy this is getting and will probably continue to get makes me think that maybe one could go, but I really doubt it. Luka unfollowed two people, Nico and kid. Yeah, I mean, Luka unfollowed kid. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's just... Luka literally hugged kid after the 45-point game. Did he? I was getting sent shit here all the time that was like, kid ran off like a bitch, like stuff like that. I mean, I don't know. If kid knew 2 weeks before the trade happened, I don't believe he gets on board with it. He def would have had conversations about it because Luka is his breadwinner. Kid walked off. Luka did not. I mean, you see, like... He didn't? All right. So... a lot of good information happening in this chat. Kid did hug LeBron, yes. I by the way, I don't even read much into that shit, honestly, because I don't know. I don't pay attention close enough after the games to see, like, does kid often go and hug other players? I guess maybe you could say it's weird that kid hugged LeBron, but not Luka. But usually the coaches just immediately beeline to the locker room. I promise they'd be saying something different if AD and the Mavs actually played well and they made decently far in the playoffs. So this is kind of what I'm saying. Like, The stuff you're going to hear now is everyone saving their ass and backtracking. That's what it is. So if Kidd wasn't behind closed doors, like in the meeting saying, yes, let's make this trade, then he could come back later and be like, yeah, I mean, I didn't like want the trade to happen. I was like, I can't believe they did it midseason. Like I wasn't on board with it. But I guarantee you that the frustrations that they said they felt with Luka, Kidd shared them. And Kidd probably told them the same shit. Number after the four. Okay, all right, Savage, I think you're spreading misinformation in the chat. Long extended blackout secrecy equals ownership 100% drove this. There's been damage control from the start when the front office slandered Luka right after the trade. I mean, yeah, horrible damage control, shitty damage control. Kidd wouldn't want to make his life harder. Is there other should we get into the Tim McMahon one? He hugged Cuban, not Kidd. Yeah, he hugged Cuban. Is that what you're thinking about? He did hug Mark Cuban, who, by the way, is not an innocent party in all of this. But I'm sorry. I think Kidd's backtracking a little bit, and maybe Kidd wasn't behind the closed doors, but Kidd shared the same frustrations with the front office about Luka, or it was in lockstep with the front office in that thinking, and that led to them feeling comfortable enough to do the trade, thinking Kidd would be on board. That's what I'm feeling, and if Kidd wasn't, if Kidd wasn't fully aware that they were making the trade until the last second, which again I just find a hard fucking time believing, then okay. Yes, read the McMahon one. I think it shows how much Nico did most of this alone. All right, here we go. Firings, cheerleader energy, and lost trust. What really led to the Luka Doncic trade? I mean, what the fuck's going on over here, man? You know what I mean? Like, what is going on over here? Dallas Mavericks officials and select staffers, past and present, packed the team's plane along with members of Dirk Nowitzki's inner circle. The flight was bound for Springfield, Massachusetts in August 2023 to celebrate a Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame induction of the most legendary figure in franchise history. 1 month in the Slight Delusional Club. Mavs general manager Nico Harrison made the trip. He wasn't especially close to Nowitzki, but their relationship dated more than 2 decades to when Harrison began his career at Nike as an NBA regional field representative based in Dallas. Casey Smith, Dallas's director of health and performance, was also part of the team's traveling party for the weekend. Nowitzki often credited Smith, who arrived in Dallas as the Mavs head athletic trainer in 2004 and was promoted to the executive ranks 15 years later, for helping him extend his career to 21 seasons. Nowitzki trusted Smith implicitly considering him one of his best friends. Yvonne with the $5. The worst part of all this is Dumont saying Nico didn't warn him of the fans' reaction. Like, motherfucker, you on the team. You should know this. Yes, that quote does nothing but make Dumont look like even more of a dumbass than he already looks. Absolutely. This whole piece is so damning of Nico. Others who joined them for the Hall of Fame festivities, which featured a pair of extravagant private parties organized by Nowitzki's longtime special projects manager, Laura Beth Seeger, in addition to the Hall of Fame functions, don't recall anything seeming amiss that weekend in Springfield when Harrison and Smith were each accompanied by their wives. What happened next began a series of behind-the-scenes decisions that have had massive ramifications for the Mavs during the shocking, drastically disappointing injury-riddled season in Dallas. Interviews with more than a dozen team and league insiders revealed that while Luka Doncic era officially ended on February 2nd, it truly began to disintegrate along with the franchise's culture. Nice one. 18 months earlier, the summer before the generational talent led the Mavs to the NBA Finals. Don't you think they front office assumed Kidd would be on board due to his sharing frustrations about Luka, but maybe he didn't know that they would actually trade him? So I guess I just have such a hard time believing right? Like, this is where we're at with the conflicting information stuff. I have such a hard time believing this trade, which we had known, right? This had been shared with us. This has been reported on. Tim Cato came on the show and said it. But this had been months in the making, even predating what we now know, predating this season, months in the making, right? I just have such a hard time believing Kidd was never, ever aware that, hey, they might trade Luka at some point. Every single piece of information that gets published day after day just makes it more and more obvious how much of an idiot Nico is. He never should have become the GM of the Mavs. It could have been that they just got used to complaining but didn't expect Nico to actually go with the trade. Maybe. A few days after returning to Dallas Love Field from the Hall of Fame event, when the franchise that had endured a frustrating losing season was on a high from honoring Nowitzki, Harrison informed Smith that they needed to meet. Smith replied that it wasn't possible to meet in person. He had gone to his hometown in Ohio to be at the side of his gravely ill mother in the final weeks of her life. Harrison set up a video conference meeting instead. Smith was then informed that his services in Dallas were no longer needed, ending a nearly 2-decade tenure with the franchise. The reason for the dismissal centered on Smith being too negative, according to the sources briefed on the discussion, who interpreted the vague reasoning to mean Smith wasn't enough of a yes man. Oh, my God. Jesus Christ almighty, man. Jesus, too negative. Yeah, that is corporate speak for you don't tell me what I want to hear enough. Absolutely. This goes back to what I said a week or so ago. The Mavs are now run like a corporation. They're run like a business. They're not, which, sports teams are, but there's a level of human involved with sports teams. Sports teams are different than, a fucking accounting firm. Like, they just operate differently. You're supposed to behave in a different manner. Like, there's different aspects of it. It's not a business. It is a business. You're supposed to make money, but it's not a business in the sense that another business is a business. But now, the Mavs are ran like a corporation. They are ran like a business. Through and through. That is it. He was 100% threatened by him, a team source told ESPN, referring to Harrison's concern that Smith's voice carried too much weight with the franchise. He's going to show that I'm in charge and nobody else can question that. It was a stunning first step in Harrison's overhaul of the team's health and performance group over the past 2 off seasons. Smith's unceremonious departure was followed by the dismissal of athletic performance director Jeremy Holsopple and manual therapist Casey Spangler in June, only days removed from Dallas's appearance in the NBA Finals. You bringing up Casey Smith is almost, it's kind of a joke. Harrison said Tuesday during an availability, the behind the closed doors meeting. Like last year, Casey wasn't around and we made it to the finals. No one brought up Casey last year, so to bring him up this year doesn't really make sense. He's been away for 2 years, so I'm not even going to comment on that. Sources told ESPN that the frigid dynamic between Doncic's camp, led by Seager, who became Doncic's business manager after being introduced to him by Nowitzki, and Harrison and his new staff factored in the GM's stunning decision to trade Doncic to the Los Angeles Lakers for Anthony Davis in February. Sadly be warned, this is a long-ass article. Should we, it's very long. Should we skim through this a little bit? I don't think we should go paragraph by paragraph. No, you guys want to go paragraph by paragraph. Okay, all right, I asked. Where were we at? Wait, I feel like I'm on a different article now. Okay. So fired next to his mother's death, visiting his mother on her deathbed. Fired via Zoom. London Hoops with the 199. Need that Dumont public apology in 2026. He's back. It ain't happening. Smith, Holsopple, and Spangler were all longtime Mavs employees who had helped Doncic, a Slovenian who spent his adolescence in Spain, make the major cultural transition after coming to Dallas as a teenager. They had become confidants for the superstar, but sources said Harrison saw them as enablers of Doncic. Despite them being immensely respected by their peers throughout the league, Holzapfel was the NBA's strength and conditioning coach of the year in 2021, and Smith's tenure as Team USA's head athletic trainer included the 2008 and 2012 Olympic gold medal runs. Jesus Christ. We feel that the guys that replaced them have done an amazing job, Harrison said. Chuckles, 3 months inside Delusional Club. Solid. Can we thank Tim McMahon again for those questions? Yeah, of course. Shout out to Tim McMahon. We feel the guys that have replaced him have done an amazing job, Harrison said. And again, you're coming at me from a negative standpoint. Uh-oh. Look out, Tim. Negativity's a no-go here, man. You're in some deep trouble, Tim. You're in some deep trouble. Shout out to Tim for switching sides. Tim never switched sides. He just sometimes didn't say things that you wanted to hear, or said things that you didn't want to hear. We feel that the guys that replaced them have done an amazing job, Harrison said. And again, you're coming at me from a negative standpoint, and I look at it from a positive standpoint. The guys that we brought in are better. Dysfunction between Harrison's new hires, Director of Player Health and Performance, Johan Billsborough, and Athletic Performance Director Keith Belton has been problematic as the Mavs' medical misfortune mounted throughout the season, sources said. The Mavs have not employed a full-time manual therapist this season. For a stretch late in the season, the Mavs sweated out, fielding an active roster with the league minimum 8 available players as Dallas dipped below 500 before finishing 39-43 to claim the Western Conference last play-in bid. Paul with the $2 circus music. It's a clown show, folks. It's a clown show. Harrison's decision to fire Smith and the way he did it also drove Nowitzki away from the franchise that he proudly played for his entire career. Sources said Nowitzki, who describes himself as a Mavs fan now, opted to no longer be involved in the inner workings of the franchise's basketball operations after Smith's forced exit. Nowitzki had served as a senior advisor to Mark Cuban, frequently attending practices and providing input when he was in Dallas. So, I mean, that basically confirms what we had already known and kind of heard, that Dirk has just not really been part of the team for years, which is sources told ESPN that Smith's ouster also prompted the departure of Mavs Vice President of Basketball Communications Scott Tomlin, another 2-decade employee of the franchise who was close with Smith, Nowitzki, and Doncic, among others. Tomlin accepted an offer to become the executive director of the DN Companies and the Dirk Nowitzki Foundation. My obligations is to the Dallas Mavericks. Hold on a second. My obligations is to the Dallas Mavericks. Harrison said Tuesday, it's what's in the best interest of the Dallas Mavericks, and that's the most important thing. Again, some of those decisions are going to be unpopular, maybe Dirk and maybe to the fans, but my obligation is to the Dallas Mavericks. Nowitzki and Tomlin have attended 2 NBA games since the beginning of February. Doncic's Lakers debut in Los Angeles. Nowitzki and Tomlin have attended 2 NBA games since the beginning of February. Doncic's Lakers debut in Los Angeles on February 10th and his return to Dallas on April 9th. Over the past year, you could already see the team heading in a different direction. Nowitzki, who declined an interview request from ESPN, said in German during a recent appearance on his foundation's Campus 41 podcast, now we're seeing the result of that. Absolutely hate to see that. Hence why the GM had probably hired one former Mac, but not the other. Nico Harrison has zero integrity and even less brains. Logan with the 2. Shout out to you slightly for rooting for the Lakers and LD. Go Lakers and Thunder. Joe Fu, 14 months. Circus music on full blast for the exit presser. Derek Lively, a 21-year-old center who projects as a long-term cornerstone, was listed as questionable on January 20th because of a right ankle sprain after sitting out the previous 2 games. Under Belton supervision, Lively went through an intense return-to-play workout before sitting out again that night. The plan was for Lively to play at home 2 nights later against the Minnesota Timberwolves. But Billsborough had concerns, prompting him to send Lively for a CT scan. It revealed a stress fracture in his right ankle that sidelined the center for the next 2.5 months. Somebody should have been fired for that, a team source said then. It was a symptom of a much larger problem, multiple team sources said. Harrison, though, portrayed the handling of Lively's injury is proof that his medical staff is elite, as he said Tuesday. Sources said that Lively's camp was pleased with Billsboro's communication and collaboration during the recovery and rehab process. It actually goes to show the strength of our medical team because he was cleared to play, but his signs and symptoms where our medical team knew it was something more, Harrison said. So that's why they went and tested him again and saw the CT scan, which they actually avoided a potential catastrophic injury. So, you will take the angle of being negative, but it's actually a positive thing because they saw the symptoms even though he was cleared to play. They didn't feel right putting him on the floor. And so they went back, they stopped him from playing, they went back, they rested, and thank God, they retested, and thank God we saw that he had a stress fracture. So, I mean, it does beg the question, how is this not seen beforehand? Now, I will say this. We talked to people. There have been some doctors who said this isn't necessarily that unusual for things to be missed and then found later. But it does kind of feel like you're a 21-year-old center. You need to be doing all the stops to make sure there isn't like a fracture beforehand. Who cleared him? The Mavs cleared him. Yeah, that's also kind of this weird thing with what Nico's saying here, kind of contradicting himself, because it's like, so somebody cleared him, which Nico shouts out the strength of the medical team because he was cleared to play, but they found out something was wrong. So they did clear him to play and then found out something was wrong after a rigorous workout. So he did a rigorous workout, a return to play workout with a stress fracture in his foot. So that could have been terrible. Like that could have gone over horribly. According to more than 10 team sources, the situation led to a loud, heated confrontation before Billsboro and Belton that began in the trainer's room at the practice facility. Whoa. At the practice facility, it continued into the weight room. Harrison did not reply to a question about the incident or several others regarding the health and performance group. ESPN submitted to the Mavs media relations department this week. The Mavs declined to make Billsboro or Belton available for comment. Not punches, but they were going at it. One of many sources who viewed the surveillance footage of the incident told ESPN. Whoa! I did not know this happened. Interesting. So we got guys going at it. We've got, oh my God, what an absolute fucking shit show and disaster. So Director of Player Health and Performance, Johan Billsboro. This is the guy who figured out that Lively was hurt. And I guess Athletic Performance Director Keith Belton is the one who's like, no, he can play. And then they got into it and had an altercation. That was coming for a long time, another team source said. Oh, shit. Belton is unqualified, fighting with Billsboro that thinks players can come back way earlier and ruin a career when he was running the Celtics. It gets spicier. The friction had been simmering for months. Harrison had created the uncomfortable dynamic by agreeing to hire Belton before Billsboro, even though Billsboro was in charge of the department. Billsboro does not respect Belton's acumen, sources said. He's a glorified cheerleader, one team source said, but Nico clearly wanted cheerleader energy. According to the National Strength Coaches Association database, Belton does not have either of the certifications from the association that are required for NBA strength coaches per Article 22 of the Collective Bargaining Agreement. The CBA states that an individual hired as a head strength and conditioning coach must have at least 3 years of experience since receiving those certifications. Wait, what? So they're breaking the law. An NBA spokesman said the league office was aware that Belton lacked the required certifications, but that the league office accepted his certifications from the College Strength and Conditioning Coaches Association on a temporary basis with the expectation he would receive his NSCA certifications immediately after the season. Belton's UCLA biography noted that he was a winner of the prestigious Stuckey Award given to individuals who excelled during their practical section of the exam. Some of Belton's critics describe him as more of a personal trainer than the body engineer that is standard for modern NBA strength coaches. Johan is a little bit handcuffed in his department, a team source said. Belton is in a pivotal role that trains players but keeps the department in line to a philosophy and everyone working the same way. Belton is none of those things. And then on top of it, the two of them have been beefing since day one, which led to the big blow up. Oh my God, dude. This is a fucking catastrophe. He has shown no respect for Johan the entire year. No collaboration whatsoever. He either ranges from completely standoffish to doing the dumbest shit with the player just to prove a point to Johan. It's terrible. And you can't do it that way. You can't do what he's done and not put a player more at risk by doing that. Belton, a former NFL fullback, had no previous NBA experience before this season. He had spent the previous 4 years as the director of football performance at UCLA, one of several college stops during a coaching career that has primarily focused on the sport he played professionally. Billsborough, an Australian sports scientist with a doctorate, also came to the Mavs from the football world, having spent the previous 5 seasons as the New England Patriots director of performance and rehabilitation. He also had previous NBA experience serving as the Boston Celtics director of sports science from 17 to 20. One Celtics source described Billsborough as highly intelligent academic expert, but not a practitioner and someone who tends to be divisive when he disagrees with somebody. Billsborough and Art Horn, the Celtics head athletic trainer and director of performance at the time, disagreed often. They had no previous relationship but were hired in the same offseason to be co-heads of Boston's health and performance group. That was a problem, the Celtics source said. There was a Cold War, there were Art Horn people, and there were Johan people. The communication between the cliques in the department was infrequent and unproductive, Celtics sources said. Billsborough left the Celtics after 3 seasons. Horn remains in Boston, having been promoted to director of organizational growth and team development. They're messy. They're messy. They're both a little messy, it sounds like. But at least Billsborough sounds like he's at least qualified to be doing what he's got going on. Whereas Belton is just doing his own shit. So a couple messy bitches, that's right. I mean, they're going at it. Feels like you want your training staff to be, seeing eye to eye. Billsborough struggled to establish rapport with Doncic and the 5-time first-team All-NBA selection body team. Harrison had already alienated Doncic by running off the people he trusted and respected. Billsborough, who already had big shoes to fill in replacing Smith, never earned Doncic's trust or respect, according to sources. It's not a coincidence that Jalen Brunson's New York Knicks hired Smith as their vice president of sports medicine as soon as his Mavs contract expired last summer. New York also hired former Mavs athletic trainer Heather Mao. The games lost to injury for the Knicks have dropped significantly from last season, and Smith and Mao recently oversaw Brunson's recovery from a gruesome ankle sprain. Weeks after leaving the Mavs in free agency in 22, Brunson discussed how much he would miss the Caseys. Holsopple and Mao during an appearance on Old Man in the 3 podcast hosted by JJ Redick. Redick mentioned that he still was in an active group chat with those then Dallas staffers despite spending only 2 months with the Mavs at the end of his playing career a year earlier. Not a lot of people understand how much of a difference those people make in your everyday life, Brunson said. I never take it for granted. They're really special. And the fact that they're so personable and you can talk to them about anything, that makes it even harder to leave the Mavs. It's not just work. They know how to be people. Yeah, those are the guys you want to let go. When players feel like they have trusted confidants that they feel comfortable going to no matter what, that they feel like they can, feel safe being around, feel good being around, those are the guys that you want to fire. You don't want those guys hanging around. You want people that everyone actively hates. Those are the guys you want to let go. Absolutely. We got to get more people that everyone hates in our business. Mavs sources, as well as agents and associates of multiple players currently on the Dallas roster, are split on Billsborough. Some described him as evidence-based and competent. Others are critical. The complaints about him are that he doesn't establish relationships with players or staff, doesn't travel with the team often early in the season, and occasionally had optimistic timetables for return from injury. Again, business. Hey, man, you're here to do this. Don't form a relationship with the players. Don't do X, Y, and Z to tell me that this player will come back when I want him to come back, and we're good. Business. That's it. If you're not around the team all the time, you shouldn't be involved in decision-making, a team source said. Added another team source who otherwise praised Billsboro. That is definitely a challenge. You can't be perceived as this guy that hovers around. You got to be able to get in, and obviously that's Casey's magic. Harrison defended the Mavs health and performance group, pointing out that the vast majority of injuries sustained by Dallas players this season have been unavoidable and caused by contact. But on multiple occasions, Mavs players have aggravated injuries or sustained related injuries immediately upon their return. It's hard to say what a guy should have for a contact injury, but how fast they come back or how likely they are to re-injure it, that's another story, team source said. How do you get me back? How well am I when I got back? That's the medical staff and the performance staff. Yeah, we'll watch Nico's press conference, although I think it's going to be lame. Added another team source. I think that is where you really see the effect of the dysfunction, but not just within the medical department, but the pressure to tread water until other guys come back so that you can prove what decisions the front office made up until this point were the right ones. I think there's a dysfunction on an organizational level because of the trade itself. The most notable and costly example is the left adductor strain sustained by Davis during his Dallas debut on February 8th when he returned from an abdominal strain that he sustained January 28th, days before the trade. Now, I will say this. It was being reported before the trade that that was around the time that they expected AD to come back. I will say that. With Harrison under fire, Davis was motivated to make a strong first impression to the outraged Mavs fan base in the first home game after the shocking blockbuster deal. He acknowledged that he should have waited another game or two to return, but Davis said it was his decision made in consultation with his personal medical team in Billsboro. They meet and communicate every day, said Davis, who works with his own staff in the weight room instead of Belton. Everybody is one big team. Organizational dysfunction, that sounds too negative. That description doesn't apply to the dynamic between Billsboro and Belton, according to multiple sources, who say their discord has been a detriment to the team. With all the great organizations, the performance and medical staff are seamless, a team source said. And here they're just completely separate and at odds. It's pretty clear to see the effect of the divide. The division created an unfortunate environment that ultimately the players had to suffer from. How the fuck does this even... This again is why I go, this is the owner's fault. How do you let this happen and under your watch? You know what I mean? Blame Nico all you want. Absolutely. Right? But as an owner, how do you let... This sounds insane. Like, what do you mean the medical staff is split? Like, what does that even mean? I honestly don't even understand how that's possible. I truthfully don't even get how that can happen. What do you fucking mean the medical staff's at odds? I mean, I'm sure that there's constant, like, when you have the medical staff and the professionals who sort of, you know, work with the players and deal with injuries, maybe diagnose them and say, hey, it's best that we wait 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, whatever the case may be. And, you know, the recovery staff that's like, no, we can get them ready in 2. I get that there's probably some disagreements there and they might not see eye to eye from time to time. But having a medical staff that doesn't even talk to each other feels pretty fucking nuts. Like, what do you mean? Absolutely insane. Sounds like the Nico Yesman versus the people that know what they're doing. That does kind of sound what it's like. They only had the best in the league before. What you want? Months before Smith's exit, Doncic and Seager had hired Real Madrid physiotherapist Javier Barrio Calvo, I hope I'm saying that right, and Slovenian national team strength coach Ans Macic, hopefully I'm saying that right, both of whom Doncic knew well, to work for him after his nagging quadriceps injury contributed to the Mavs limping into the 2023 draft lottery. Important to note that Luka had started to build up some of these nagging injuries before the Casey Smith departure. That is important to note. It followed a trend of NBA superstars, including Davis and Mavs guard Kyrie Irving, employing their own health and performance staff to work in consultation with their team's department. He had one injury before Casey. That's it. No, dude, how many different ankle injuries did he have? And he had the quadriceps injury. Like, he had injuries. It's okay to say. It's okay to say that he did. And yet somehow played the most minutes of any player last year, regular season playoffs. Well, Casey Smith was gone last year. Yeah, he never had an injury that led to him being out for a long period of time. That much is true. But I'm saying that we were starting to work up these injuries. Like the quadriceps injury, the quad injury was bad. That was like a thing that was bad the entire year pretty much, wasn't it? We ever going to finish the article? No, we're never going to finish it. Doncic and Seager had envisioned his staff working seamlessly with Smith, who made annual summer visits to Slovenia and often attended Doncic's national team games around the globe. With Smith having been dismissed for the final year of his contract, Holsapple was the Mavs' point man in the union with Doncic's body team. Doncic's camp considered the first season of the arrangement a great success. He averaged a league-leading 33.9 points, 9 rebounds, nearly 10 assists during the regular season, should have been MVP, and became the first player in NBA history to lead the league in points, rebounds, and assists, steals during a postseason. He also led the league in total minutes with 3,524 combined in the regular season and playoffs. You don't perform like that if you're a fat, drunk pig. A friend of Doncic's grumbled, feeling as if that's how the Mavs portrayed the superstar in the aftermath of the trade, ending Doncic's dream to spend his career in Dallas. God damn. If I'm Luka, I'm looking at my friend. I'm like, hey, man, I don't think they ever called me a fat pig. Like, that felt like that was you, kind of. They basically called him a fat pig. Wait, so Davis was allowed to have his own staff? Yes. I think what maybe it was mentioned here, maybe it wasn't, but one thing that we do know, and maybe this is what the difference is in Nico's eyes, and I'm not saying I agree with that, I'm saying in Nico's eyes, was that I think Anthony Davis's staff and the Mavs staff, or portion of the Mavs staff, whatever portion is good for Nico's eyes, work together, where I do not think Luka's staff and the Mavs staff work together this year. Despite the historic production, Harrison was concerned. Doncic had still gained weight during the season while carrying the heavy workload. The tension thickened between the GM and the increasingly alienated face of the franchise and his camp. Hillsborough stepped into a difficult situation and didn't endear himself to Doncic's camp. Sources said Cuban, who had made Doncic's happiness his top priority since Dallas acquired the draft rights to the prodigy in 2018 and worked closely with Seager for years before that, volunteered to serve as an intermediary. But Harrison had succeeded in pushing Cuban completely out of basketball operations since Patrick Dumont took over as the team's governor and didn't want to cede any ground. Ooh. It didn't help matters that Doncic was hit in the left calf while scrimmaging with teammates at SMU just before training camp opened. It was initially believed to be just a bruise, but after Doncic experienced significant soreness in the opening practice of camp, an MRI revealed a grade 1 strain, sources said, which the Mavs did not mention in their injury release. But we knew it was a strain, though, at the time, didn't we? But the Mavs didn't mention it? Is that what that's saying? Because we knew then it was a strain, didn't we? Am I misremembering that whole saga? No? Are we sure about that? They said it was a calf contusion. Never a strain. They said contusion. All right. October 2nd, 2024, Luka Doncic suffers left calf strain in second straight preseason. They didn't say grade though. I think the Mavs officially came out. It was Shams reported. Yeah, the Mavs I don't think said it, but I think it was reported that it was a calf strain. All right. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Literally the next line said yeah, but that's what they were saying. That's what the Mavs reported, but it was being reported by people that it was a calf strain. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Doncic sat out the preseason and added more than a dozen pounds during his absence, sources said, frustrating and angering Harrison and others in the organization. Doncic, who also used his own team of doctors instead of the Mavs physicians, was diagnosed with a sprained right wrist on November 20th. Sources said Harrison and the Mavs medical staff considered the diagnosis a cover-up to allow Doncic time to work on his conditioning and shed weight after a sluggish start to the season by his standards. On November 29th, the day before the fifth and final game he set out, a television in the media room at the Mavs practice facility was tuned into the closed-circuit feed of Doncic scrimmaging with low-minute players and staffers, launching long jumpers on almost every offensive possession. When a team employee noticed the feed, they changed the channel quickly, saying they were unsure how it became available. The feed has not been shown in the media room since. Yeah, I got to be honest with you. I don't really get... What is that supposed to mean? I don't really get that one. Is that supposed to be like a... So this is saying Luka Camp lied about wrist injury, so they leaked a practice video? On November 29th, the day before the fifth and final game he set out, a television in the media room at the Mavs practice facility was tuned into the closed circuit feed of Doncic scrimmaging with low-minute players and staffers. Yeah, but I mean, if it was the last game he missed, I don't really see how that's even weird. They leaked it. But if he was going to play the next game, him scrimmaging is not weird at all. All right, we'll just, whatever. Barrio Calvo and Billsboro communicated regularly, but they frequently disagreed. Sources said meetings that included Harrison, Billsboro, Seager, Barrio Calvo, and Doncic's agent, Bill Duffy, were often tense and unproductive. Doncic did not work with Belton at all. So remember, guys, I told you this, that I had some person just reach out to me like a week before the trade, weirdly. And be like, yeah, I heard this from someone, like that Luka's medical staff and the Mavs medical staff hate each other. And I was like, who gives a fuck? The tension between the sides soared after Doncic sustained another left calf strain, his fourth in a 28-month span, on Christmas Day. Doncic's camp believed he had returned too quickly from a left heel bruise he had sustained during a 45-point triple-double in December 15th win over Golden State Warriors and had been playing on his toes to avoid discomfort in his heel. Harrison blamed poor conditioning. Oh, I hadn't seen this bit. The sides also drastically disagreed on the timetable for Doncic's return after receiving the MRI results. Billsboro believed Doncic could be back in 2 or 3 weeks, sources said, while Doncic's team adamantly stated that he needed to sit out 6 weeks. They got their way, and a target return date was set for February 8th home game against the Houston Rockets. So another thing that, and I thought this was fucking absurd, but another thing that person said when they, like a week before the trade about the medical staff, was that the Mavs thought Luka could be playing already. I remember that and just being like, there's no fucking way. There's no way. There's literally no way. He was on a scooter. There's no way he could be playing. Saw the insider. Well, it's funny. I mean, people hit me up all the time. They're just like, dude, my dad's friend is the janitor and this happened. And I'm like, all right. That deep in the divide, a source said. Doncic didn't put any weight on his left leg for weeks, using crutches and a scooter to get around. The MRI results 4 weeks later were encouraging, but the plan remained in place. Well, that's what the 199. Someone better be keeping a counter. Another major disagreement emerged between the sides when Doncic refused Harrison's request to join the team on a 5-game trip leading up to his target return date. Harrison griped that Doncic was holding the team hostage, sources said. All right, this is where Nico clown behavior really seeps in. It's really not that uncommon. Not uncommon at all. In fact, you see it all the time for guys who are recovering from injury to not travel with the team. Like, that sounds completely and totally normal to me. Where can I watch this press conference, by the way? How is that holding the team hostage? Yeah, I really don't know. That to me, what that sounds like to me is like, hey guys, man, Luka's really holding us hostage, huh? And everyone around him is just like, not really. And he's like, no, guys, Luka's really holding us hostage, guys. What are we supposed to do, man? I guess we got to trade him. Everyone's like, what? No, we don't have to do that. We got to trade him, right, guys? He's holding us hostage. Everyone's like, what? No, man, come on. All right, I have the YouTube pulled up. Doncic's camp argued that he was better off having around-the-clock access to the Mavs practice facility than traveling with the team. It pointed out that Doncic was doing 2-a-day, multi-hour basketball workouts, which wouldn't be possible with the court time difficult to book on the road. He also could utilize the weight room and the high-tech medical equipment at his convenience, which isn't the case in other teams' arenas and hotels. I mean, that just sounds logical to me. Harrison countered, insisting that Doncic needed a scrimmage. Doncic's camp, in response, said he'd be happy to practice with the G League Texas Legends in Frisco, a Dallas suburb. The next time Doncic's camp heard from Harrison was to share the news that the trade he'd been secretly negotiating for weeks with the Lakers was finalized. Damn, that's that. That's that. Well, I mean, look. Yes, this paints Nico in a terrible light, obviously. That goes without being said. Again, I circle back to, if you're the owner of a team, right? And I get it. Again, this is operating like a business. So you have your higher up who's not really involved, right? I'm going to hire somebody who to take care of shit for me. I just got bigger things to worry about. I don't care about what's going on behind the scenes here. You guys handle it. Right? He just sat down. Uh-oh, here we go. The Nico Harris. Oh, here we go. The press conference is starting right now.